Welcome to another one-on-one Magpie Circle. And in the hot seat today, a central defender that didn't spend very long with us, bagged a load of goals and made himself a hugely popular name in his short stint at Meadow Lane, and also has one of the best promotion records of many players still playing, no fewer than 4 promotions under his belt. A very warm welcome from Cumbria and the Northeast, Mark Ellis. Mark, delighted you can join us.
For having me, Paul.
Hey, no, it's a pleasure. We've got loads of things to talk about. As you know, the Magpie Circle did sponsor you during your time, so there are your two matches.
Thank you very much for that as well.
No, my pleasure, our pleasure. I'm not sure whether we got the one that had all the claret on it after the game at Torquay, or whether it all got washed out, or whether you kept that one as a souvenir. Yeah, because it was that a busted nose down at Torquay you got that day?
No, it was my eye, split my eye open.
Ah, that's right.
And the lad got sent off for it. He said he didn't intend to do it. It wasn't. He didn't mean to do it. But it was, like I say, it was just one of them. He's caught me. I've seen him come in, and he's glanced us, and like I say, I've ended up with what did I have, about 20 odd stitches in my eyebrow.
You can't be a proper centre half unless you've got a few stitches, spilt a bit of claret, broke the nose.
Yeah, I've done that one. Done all 3. I've split both my eyes open. So I think it's all been done, to be fair.
Right. So I think it's fair to say, warrior sometimes is an overused phrase in football. You would absolutely fit that bill. And Mark Cooper, your manager up at Barrow, says I think the phrase he used when you joined Barrow was, "No need to worry about you. You do what you say on the tin." Yeah, Ron Seal. And I think in your Twitter bio, I think it's something like head it, kick it, tackle.
Yeah.
So why do you say that? Tell me about your philosophy or your approach to football.
I don't think I'm the most gifted of players. I think, like I say, the heading and the tackling is a massive part of my game. I've had to work my socks off to where I've had to be, not having the most. And I say Kevin Nicholson will probably tell you the same. I'm not the most talented with the ball. But like I say, I've had to go with it over the years, and I've been with teams that want to play football, and I've had to adjust my game as well as doing the head and kicking and the tackling side of it.
I'm guessing you must have a very strong winner's mentality too, because it can't be any coincidence that you've got 4 promotions on your CV.
No, but then I think you've got to look at the other players around you as well. It's not you've got to have 15, 16 plus players in your team to want to do things like that. And I don't think it's just down to me at the end of the day. I think it's, with other managers, I think it's installed into you early on. But no, like I say, every game I go into, I want to win. Like I say, sometimes you don't have your best games, but you still want to win. But no, like I say, I've been with some great teams, and like I say, I've enjoyed it.
Let's just, and we'll delve back a little bit further in your career in a moment, but let's just go. You're at Tranmere, and you get the opportunity to come to Notts County, yeah, under a former manager, Neil Ardley. Talk me through those thought processes that went through your mind at that point.
Well, I was told around Christmas time that I was no longer needed with Tranmere, and again, a new manager come in. And basically said, obviously, new manager comes in, everybody's going to get the opportunity to show what they can do, and it's the manager that I know. And he just come to me and just said, "You're not going to be part of my plans. There's 4 central defenders that are ahead of you." I questioned it and said, I don't think that's the case. So obviously, I did whatever we could to get myself a club in January, and it didn't happen. And I think that was prior to obviously the previous season with lockdown and everything. It didn't, like I say, I'd just come back from a cruciate knee ligament injury, and teams didn't really want to take the chance. So obviously January went by and there was nothing. And then going into February, March, that's how I get a phone call on my day off from my agent, and he just said, "How do you fancy a chance of another promotion?" And he said, "Notts County." And I said, "Get it done." And it was a no-brainer for me, and it was something I wanted to get sorted as soon as possible.
Now, you knew of one person at Notts, or associated with Notts, an old schoolmate of yours. Lots of fans listen to his dulcet tones week in and week out, Charlie Slater. So, did you have a chat with Charlie beforehand, or as soon as you got there?
Like I say, it was out of the blue from my agent, but no, I did send him a short message saying there's probably a possibility, and I said that's all I can tell you. And then it just went from there. There was a bit of toing and throwing between, Tranmere wanted certain things in the contract and stuff like that. And at the time, I thought they were being a bit greedy, and I didn't think it was going to get done. And that's say in the end, after probably 2 or 3 days of trying to sort stuff out, it got sorted.
So you've come to Notts. Was it a dilemma to you to drop down a division out of the Football League, or was the attraction of Notts and, like you said, another promotion something that made it a relative no-brainer for you?
No, it was a no-brainer. Like I said, I've done it before. I've dropped down before, and for me, the league's improving year by year. But like I say, obviously with Notts County, a massive football club, for me to drop down to somebody like that, I think it had to be, if I was going to drop down, it had to be a team that was going to fight for the playoffs, for promotion. And I thought, yeah, why not? Notts County is definitely do for me.
I think also, I read somewhere on more or less your first or second training session, you volunteered that you had a long throw, yeah?
Yes.
Which was, I think, was a bit of a surprise to everyone, wasn't it? And of course, do you check the throw-ins or do you get on the end of them? So you've joined, and it was kind of a turbulent start in the sense that Notts changed their manager not too long after.
Yeah.
And then we didn't have the best of times. What was going through your mind at that point?
It was, like I say, everything just come out of the blue. We had some all right results when they come in. I think the first game I come in was at Halifax.
Yeah.
Wasn't the best of games. I was actually disappointed I wasn't starting.
Okay.
But like I say, I'd only been in the door a day or two. So like I say, it was on my part, it was disappointing, but I think that's just me wanting to come in and wanting to play and wanting to show what I could do. But the manager made it clear, look, you're going to be a part of it. That's it, you've only been in the door. So it's just a case of getting that opportunity to get in the team.
There was a change of manager. There was a poor run, but then of course everyone managed to turn it around quite spectacularly at the end of the season. And one of the things, you've always scored goals. Kevin Nicholson has mentioned this to us before, but I think your return of something like 6 goals in 20 games is phenomenal for a centre half, and I think it's probably about the best strike record you've had in your career, isn't it?
I think so. I think if you go back, I think you look back, I think it was when I was at Crewe. I think one of the seasons there, I think I scored 5 or 6. That was, I think that was 2012, 13 maybe. But no, like I say, it's to come in like that and do what I did to score goals. Like I say, for me, it's a massive part of my game. Set pieces, the opportunity to get forward. Like I say, first things first is you try and win games for your team and keep as many clean sheets as possible as well.
Did you used to be a centre forward or something back in the day as a kid? Because it is an unerring knack that you've had throughout your career.
Yeah, I don't think I didn't turn to centre half until I was probably 14, 15, when I joined Exeter City as a young lad. But prior to that, I was in playing for my local teams around the area, and I was as a centre forward, and I always used to score quite a lot of goals. So I still think I've got that instinct of being in the right place at the right time.
I guess one goal that would stick in the mind of a lot of people would be the Chesterfield game, the playoff game.
Yeah.
Fans myself, 4,000 Notts fans, whatever it was, allowed into the stadium for the first time. It's a playoff game against local rivals. And it was kind of a match that had absolutely everything, wasn't it? I mean, we'll come to the goal in a minute, but if you think back, was it at half time? We made a bit of a change defensively. I think they had Nathan Tyson. It was a bit, watching it, it was a bit like a game of Russian roulette, you know, when they were trying to spring it and all the rest of it. What was going through your mind in that playoff game at that point?
Half time, I think, you know, obviously we conceded, I'd say probably two poor goals. Like I said, we did well to get ourselves back into the game, but then to concede not long after, it was frustrating. But we knew that they were going to do the counter attacking on us, and basically, we said we had to be better with the ball, and I think they worked them that hard in the first half, Chesterfield, and we've come out ready to go again and have good possession of the ball and do the right things. And like I say, perhaps the change maybe helped a little bit as well, so you can get the outside centre halves forward a bit more. But we still knew we had to be careful of their counter attacks in the second half.
Because to an extent, it was almost like one-on-one, you and Nathan Tyson for a fair chunk of that second half.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think I rode my luck a couple of times. I think there was an offside that, looking back at it when we seen the clips, I think he was just onside and the linesman's gave him offside. So I think, like I say, I think it was, like I say, destiny for us to win the game.
Okay, so we're going into the final moments. Ruben gets the free kick. We know their keeper's not as mobile as he could have been. So as someone that's already got 5 goals in 18 or 19 appearances, what goes through your mind? Is that do you make the exact run to the exact place where Ruben is going to put it, or is it just a case of put the ball in and I'll go somewhere where I think it's going to be?
I think it was just a case of where it was being taken. It had to be the perfect ball, and obviously in the end of it, it was. I think it was just a case of the keeper's struggling. At the time, I didn't realise he was struggling as much as he was. But I thought anything in between the posts, I've got half a chance of getting on the end of it. And I felt during the game, I felt quite comfortable. During it, that was beating the centre halves in the air from our set pieces anyway. So it was just a case of just running there, and if I've got to clatter the keeper. Just wanted to get on the end of it.
There's a lot of talk. I mean, you are undoubtedly a quality header of the ball, and you talk about it, as we say, in your bio. There's a lot of debate in football at the minute, isn't there, about heading in the game? Yeah. And to an extent, you are not a throwback, but probably a breed of a certain type of player that maybe in 10 years' time, there won't be many of you at all.
No, I think, like I say, looking
on the heading and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, looking back at it, I think when I was growing up, and like I say, when I did go to centre half, I had the likes of, I was probably watching Tony Adams, John Terry coming through, Sol Campbell, but there was, Rio Ferdinand. They were all them type of players, and I think they've all had to adjust, especially Ferdinand, Terry. They've all had to adjust the style of play as well as doing the nasty side of it.
Does it ever worry or you concern you, given you put your head where it hurts, and I'm sure will continue to do so for the rest of your career? Has it ever bothered you with the injuries, or do you just take this as that's part and parcel of the job?
I think I've just got on with it, but now you've had obviously people coming out and saying about the dementia and things like that later on in life. I've probably not thought about it as much, probably till the recent couple of years since when it started coming out. But I'm not going to change what I do. I'm not going to, I would never duck out of a header. If there's a 50-50 and I'm going to end up either getting my head kicked or whatever, then so be it, and deal with what comes.
So, Chesterfield, your late winner, 6 goals down. you've got experience of playoff campaigns. You know, you've been to Wembley with Forest Green and won. You beat Tranmere. So what are your thoughts then going in to a game against Torquay? Only a one-off game down there. What were your views? Were you supremely confident, bit edgy? What was your take on that going into that game?
No, I felt confident. I think when we went back to the league game, we played. I think we played them off the park, to be honest, yeah. and we did really well going 2-0 up, and like I say, giving a goal at the end, right at the end. We'd been struggling defensively with set pieces, long throws. People wanted to go in head balls and getting in each other's way, and we kept saying it. We needed a strategy to stop that from happening, and it was one of them things that, like I say, 90th minute, 95 minutes, and it was like, oh, we've done it again. And like I say, that was frustrating. But we knew if we were going to be good with the ball in the playoff game, then I'd back ourselves to win. But on the day, we just fell short.
Didn't get off to the best of starts, but got back into it. So at 2-2, you're thinking we've kind of recovered the damage that was inflicted on us in the first few minutes, yeah?
Yeah. No, and like I say, I think I'll give a penalty away. I think that obviously took the wind right out of us. But it was in my opinion, was a fair challenge. When you see the replay, I thought it was an excellent block. But the referee didn't see it that way at the time and give a penalty.
How much did it hurt?
Oh no, it hurt.
In that fashion.
Yeah, no, it hurt. I think if it was a semi-final over 2 legs, I think we get through it. But say it wasn't. But no, my aim was to come to the club and get the club promoted and do what I can to help the lads out. So no, it hurt, losing into the semi-final, especially to a former club as well. It did hurt.
I mean, how personally did you take it? Without wanting to labour the point, we've conceded, was it 4 goals down there, 3 goals?
Yeah.
And you're part of the defence against your former club, and defensively we had shored things up an awful lot in towards the end of the season. How badly did you take that? Because technically you were still on loan, weren't you? And you kind of presumably knew that Tranmere weren't going to be offering you a new contract. So how does that affect your decision-making process?
I'd like to say with the Tranmere thing, I didn't, like I say, I just concentrated on doing what I could to help knocked out. But no, like I say, it was hard to take. At the time I thought, well, that's it, the season's done. Where does it, I didn't really think anything before that. Just thought, right, do what I can for the club to do what we can to try and get them promoted. It didn't happen. And then obviously that's when it come down to, right, what am I doing? Where am I going? I sort of knew Tranmere weren't going to offer me anything. So it was just a case of trying to get something sorted as soon as I could.
So what goes through your mind and how do you evaluate where to go next? We've seen a lot of players, strikers, who are competing very successfully, scoring a lot of goals in League Two. And with some of the bigger clubs have made that move down, when on the face of it, you would have thought, crikey, they wouldn't come. And clearly there are some good contracts being moved around. What was kind of deciding factors for you in the next stage of your career? Because obviously, fair play, all credit to you, you are back in the Football League.
Yeah, I think that was a part of it. If somebody come in and the opportunity to stay in the Football League, that was a big part. But it was, I had meetings with. We had, the next day we were in with, after the Torquay, we had meetings with, Ian, and I come out the meeting. It was a positive meeting, but within, like I say, within half an hour of coming out of the meeting, it was, there's a contract for you, and I want to sign you.
And the fact, I guess you've worked with Mark Cooper before, is obviously good for you, and
Yeah.
from a family home perspective, the commute isn't too bad.
No, we currently train around the Manchester area, so it's not, like I say, it's not a million miles away. And again, Notts isn't a million miles away. But I think if things were done faster, and there was a lot of, when I spoke to Ian Birchnell, there was a lot of, he made it clear that he would like me to stay. I think it's best that I do, that out. But there wasn't a contract on the table at the time, because again, they didn't know what I was doing, what my plans were. I wanted to go in and speak to them before the playoffs, but I didn't think it was the right time. And like I say, everyone, and nothing was done. Let's say when the meeting happened, he made it clear that he would like me to stay. So like I say, I did inform them that I had an offer from a football league club. It was just a case of waiting to see, could they match it, or could they get anywhere near what offers that there were.
Looking back on your time at Notts, did you enjoy it? What did you make of it all?
I loved every second of it. Like I say, if a football league club didn't come in for me, I think there was only one place I would have wanted to go, and that would have been Notts County. But I loved, like I say, the fans, the players, they're absolutely tremendous. And like I say, can't fault anybody, absolutely every second of it.
Well, I think all the fan base certainly took you to their heart. Let's just talk a little bit about your goal scoring, because I believe your dad's made a few quid out of you down the years, hasn't he?
Yeah, my dad and my brother.
What's his rituals? What does he do?
It just a case of, like I say, it doesn't matter who we're playing, where we're playing. It's just a case of, right, they'll do us to the first goal or any time. So they put whatever they put on it. I couldn't, but I know by the time I was at Notts, I know there were quids in.
Yeah. So your dad would bet on you to be first goal scorer, and I think you also mentioned score at any time. Yeah.
Any time, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's good. You've made your dad a few quid. 4 promotions. Shame it couldn't have been 5th at Meadow Lane. You are obviously very well placed to talk about ingredients and things that make for a promotion team, lasting the pace, because I think it's 2 out of the conference or Vanarama League and 2 from League 2 to League 1, correct?
Yeah.
Are there any kind of common threads through those teams, you think, that give you a chance of getting a promotion? Or what's the difference between being a nearly team and getting over the line?
Like I say, a couple of goal scorers that are going to get you 15, 20, 25 goals. I think Notts, we had Kyle that was we relied heavily on him massively to score every game. But like I say, he had a little bit of a drought, but the work ethic that he put in training in every single game that he didn't score in, I thought he was tremendous throughout. His head didn't go down. It was tough for him. But no, overall, I think, like I say, the couple of goal scorers you get, the mixture of experience and young. Again, I thought Notts, we had that, especially with Doyle in the middle of the park and his knowledge of the game level. He's played at a lot higher level than I have. But no, let's say that's what you need, and the aggression and getting stuck into teams.
Kel Roberts, you probably wouldn't have played too many times because he's had a lot of injury problems while you were there. He's back now. Ruben Rodriguez, you would have obviously kind of seen a player that wasn't in the team to coming through to being, one of the fulcrums of the team and attracting a lot of attention. How good was Ruben for you when you were seeing him on the training ground, on the pitch? We've already mentioned the inch-perfect free kick for the goal against Chesterfield. What was he like?
Yeah, no, like I say, ability-wise, he's up there with probably one of the best players I've played around. personally, I think he can go higher. It's whether he wants to go higher, and you know what I mean. If he's mentally right, physically right, I think within a couple of years, I think he will be playing high-end League One, Championship football.
See, that's a very interesting point you raised there. We talk a lot about stats, those sorts of things these days, and the way we assess the modern day footballer and what they can and they can't do. You know, you mentioned mentality there. I'm guessing one of your biggest strengths is a strong mentality to this, the mental aspect of the game. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like I say, with promotion players, you've got to have them type of players around you. And like I say, I've been in, you know, being a young lad at the time when I first got one of my promotions, the experience around the team was unbelievable, and players knew what they had to do to win and to win a promotion.
How ruthless do you have to be to get a promotion? You know, is this archetypally when you cross the line, you have to kick your granny to get a result and everything?
Yeah, like, I mean, you know, I've been with managers, and it's, you know, you can be as nice as pie off the pitch. I like to think I am, and other players are as well. But I think as soon as you cross the white line, it's right. It's for you. You know, you've got to look back, and it's for your family, friends, or whatever gets you going to win a game of football. You've got to do it. And like I say, mentality again with certain individuals, it certainly helps.
Very interesting. When I was talking with Kevin Nicholson, who of course was your manager down at Torquay, wasn't he? And he said you are a very, very nice guy off the pitch, a family man, a quiet man. But when you cross the line, they are not necessarily ways in which you would describe yourself.
No, definitely not. Like I say, anyone you speak to will probably say, yeah, off the field, yeah, gentle giant, do anything for anybody. And I'm sure the wife will say once I'm on the field, she's heads in her hand, you know, thinks I'm going to go and fight everybody during a game. But perhaps it's just, you know, it's just adrenaline, that willingness to want to win and do what I can to win a game for the team.
Yeah, you see, I think mentality is so important. I mean, I'll give you an example. One of my clients, I sort of working like sports PR, and so we handle William Hill, the bookmakers, who your dad has obviously won a fortune off betting on you to score first over the last 15 years. And he won a Football Supporters Federation award, Luis Suarez. And it was only a year after he'd been done for a second time for biting and all the rest of it. And he was kind of public enemy number one. I arranged with Liverpool for him to come down to collect this award in London. And their communications manager said, look, Paul, you know, we know you, I trust you, you just do it properly and you look after him, do whatever needs to be done. So meet Louis. And Louis had said, look, I'll come down, that's no problem. He said, but I'd like to have a hotel room so my wife can get ready to receive the award with me, because I want my wife to come down with me. Yeah, it's a family thing for us. No problem. You know, get them a nice hotel in the Renaissance, the bottom of St Pancras Station. Get yourselves ready, all the rest of it. And he comes to the event. He's got his tux on and everything. 6 o'clock, and I said, oh, okay, this is what we need you to do. No problem, Paul. And I said, look, do you want us to take you up into the green room and you can just wait with your wife? He said, no. He said, I've got to go early to get the train back. He says, but so what I'll do is, he said, take me into the room with 300 football fans from all the clubs around the country. He said, and I'll meet them. I'll sign autographs. I'll do whatever you want for the 2 hours that I'm here. Don't want to be out of the way. I'll give you value for money while I'm here. I said, okay, great. Took him out. Of course, everybody, Arsenal fan, Chelsea, you know what it's like, all the bands, as soon as they see, oh yeah, can I have a selfie, can I have a photo? And for 2 hours, he was absolutely brilliant. And, you know, this is a guy that's been banned from international football, domestic football, biting people, all the rest of it. Yeah, as a person with his wife, you just say, "Wow, I think he's one of the nicest professional footballers I have ever met." We said thank you very much, goodbye, and I spoke to Liverpool after, so thanks ever so much. And I said, like, you know, he's got this persona on the pitch. I said, but off it, one of the nicest footballers I have ever worked with. He said, yeah, that's how he is until he crosses the line. When he crosses the line, as you've just said, he will do anything to win a game of football. You know, there's no such thing as cheating. You do what you can to get the result. And I think that's kind of a mentality thing as much as anything else, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, I'm sure it's not just me. I'm sure there's, like I say, players that play with, again, nice as pie off the pitch. But let's say they'll do what they can for themselves, the team, to win a game.
Now, when you broke into Torquay's team and you got your first promotion, you'd have only been, what, 19 or 20?
It was probably 17, 18, yeah, something like that.
There was a guy there that I understand gave you a bit of a hard time. Now, I have to say, we as Notts fans got our own back for you by giving Guy Branston a very hard time at Notts County. I think it's fair to say he didn't have the greatest of times as a player at Notts or as in charge of recruitment. But Guy Branston kind of brought you up in the early school of hard knocks, didn't he?
He did. Again, going back to that, one of the nicest players off the pitch, but on it, not somebody you want to, especially on the training field, not somebody you want to get angry, if you put it that way. But no, tremendous. And like I say, I learned a lot. And, you know, with the players that I had growing up around me, you know, again, Nico, Guy Branston, Chrissy Hargreaves, Lee Hodges, you know what I mean? That was some experienced players, and like I say, I think I learned early on that I had to learn from them because they'd been higher and achieved things, and like I say, I wanted to do the same.
To get a promotion at such an early age out of the conference, I mean, what do you remember? What was the division, the league like then when you were a teenager, compared to how it is now?
It's probably made me the player that I am today. I remember my debut clearly. I think I lasted probably 75 minutes, and I cramped up. My legs were cramping up, my hamstrings, my calves, my quads. But I was put in against the team that had players that would work hard, want to fight. I think going back to, I think it was James Constable when he was at Kidderminster Harriers. And probably one of the hardest strikers to play against in non-league. So it was a good test and probably a good battering that I needed to get me going.
So you grew up in Kingsbridge, not a million miles away from Torquay. So you're kind of playing football for what is effectively one of your local football clubs. But like most footballers, you know, it's how boots will travel, isn't it? Was that a difficult decision for you to move on and, you know, seek the old professional football fame and fortune?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, when I left Exeter City to move on to do my apprenticeship with Bolton Wanderers, you know, that was a massive decision. That was a massive decision at the age of, you know, leaving school, let's say 16. But to join a Premier League club, it was a no-brainer for me. I thought, like, let's try and get as high as I can, as young as I can. So that was a no-brainer for me. And then
what was that experience like? I'd forgotten that because Bolton were Premier League when you were there. I mean, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I mean, again, when I went into that football club, I mean, if you look back at the players that were there was Yuri Djorkaeff, Ivan Campo, Fernando Hierro, JJ Okocha.
Yeah.
You know, the talent. Nikos Anelka joined when I was there. Again, then you had, you know, say Kevin Davis, people like that. It was, like I say, it was a very, very good team. Gary Speed was another. but there were some tremendous players around that training ground.
What didn't quite work out for you there?
Maybe I wasn't good enough. Change of manager a couple of times. But like I say, if there was things that would have changed now, there would probably been quite a bit. Probably spending more time in the gym and working on more things. But I think when you're young, you think, oh, I'm at a big club. I've made it. And like I say, it wasn't the case.
Okay, so you have the stint at, so you get a promotion under your CV at Torquay, then you move back up north, yeah?
Yes, I think I left Torquay after 4 or 5 years, including the loan spell, enjoying Crewe. Like I say, they're known for bringing players through the youth system, and they actually paid money for me to Torquay. So I knew what type of football they wanted to play. So it was a case of I had to go there and adjust to the style of play they wanted to do.
Because on the face of it, Crewe has had a reputation over many years for producing talented, flair, keep the ball players, not always massive in stature. So I'm guessing were you kind of brought in to be not the enforcer, but for a bit of steel?
Yeah, I think so. But I had to quickly adjust to the way they wanted to play, because it was a case of wanting to play out build from the back and play out. So that was going to be new for me. Torquay, you play when it's on, but more a case with the players that we had, it was get the ball forward, get it into the strikers, midfield runners, etc. But here it was a case of, right, I've got to adjust my game to try and play football and play in the right way.
So how did that go?
I enjoyed it. Like I say, after a couple of years, no promotion, but learned a lot from the manager. And like I say, it was good, and it was a good club to be around.
So you move on again, and you do get another promotion now, yeah?
Yes, I moved on to Shrewsbury after that. So again, it was, I think they've just come off a relegation. So the managers put a completely new team together. I think they ended up making 18, 19 new signings. And it was just a case of working hard with the team and trying to get us to gel as soon as possible to fight for promotion.
You're starting to rack up a few clubs. You're playing under a few managers. Presumably now you're starting to learn the game a lot more and more confident in your own ability when you cross that white line and understand what is expected of you, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, again, going into some of the clubs in the last 6 or 7 years, there's been a lot of players that I've played with, and they've all gone on and gone to bigger things. Again, Shrewsbury had like Connor Goldson, centre half, plays for Rangers now. I had experience there. James Collins, centre forward, plays in the Championship now. Liam Lawrence, obviously back end of his career.
Yeah.
Players like that knew the game, and let's say some younger players that again have moved on and gone to bigger clubs.
Of all the teams you've played in, what would you say was the best team?
I'd probably have to go with the Shrewsbury team.
Yeah.
The promotion there, like I say, again, a mixture of young and old. I think I was in the middle, the age group at the time, but no, there was a lot of hard-working players. Again, knew what they had to do to win a game of football for the team, and knew what they had to do individually to put a shift in.
You got your second promotion out of the Vanarama League Conference League with Forest Green. So you were on loan there, but kind of went at the end of the season and kind of, I suppose you could draw parallels with Notts. You did your job and got the club promoted while on loan. Unfortunately, Notts, it didn't quite pan out, because you won at Wembley, didn't you, as well, which I presume must be one of the high spots of your career.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, I think I've been there a few times with clubs, but to play there and in front of a good crowd. I mean, I think I think Paul Forest Green only had 3,500, 4,000 fans to the 20 odd thousand that Tranmere brought. So we were obviously the underdogs, but I'll never forget talking to the lads in the change room before the kickoff, saying the pressure is on Tranmere. They have to go up. They're the big club. They've been down here a couple of seasons. They're the team that have to come up. So there's no pressure on us. Just go out there and enjoy it, and what will be will be.
You won 3-1, and of course you had, you spoke earlier about goal scorers, didn't you? Of course, you had a very prolific marksman in Christian Deutsch, and I think he scored that day as well.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think he ended up with 30 odd goals. I think, but we had players around him that could also, Liam Noble, again, former Notts, chipped in with quite a lot of goals. And I think it was the style of play that the manager put into the team over how long we've been there. I think on the day, I think we played some very, very good football on a very big pitch. And I think we knew if we could play football on that pitch and open the game up and get Tranmere chasing around after us, we'd pick them off. And like I say, half time, we were 3-1 up.
Interesting what you say about the pressure was on the big club. Because this, of course, is one of the challenges Notts face in the National League, isn't it? This is, we are now in our third season. The very first year before you came, we got to the final and we played Harrogate. And I don't think any Notts fan, hand on heart, can say that Harrogate didn't deserve to win. We didn't, unfortunately, turn up that day. But I guess that there are parallels to be drawn between your win over Tranmere and Notts having, on the face of it, from a reputation, pride, all the rest of it, to be in the box seat. How much more difficult is it being the bigger club when you're down in places like the Conference?
I think there's that many big clubs that are down there. Like I say, Notts, Grimsby, now Southend, teams that have dropped down, Chesterfield again, Stockport, the Wrexhams. I think it's getting even harder. And like I say, only 2 teams can come out of that lot. But it's the team that want it most, and the team that have players that are willing to do anything they can to achieve that.
I think I saw somewhere Chris Wilder said that, he's done extremely well, obviously, at Sheffield United. He said one of the hardest things you can do as a manager is get a team out of the Conference, because it's so cut through. Numerically, there's a lot, mathematically, it's a much smaller chance for a start because 1 automatic and 1 playoff rather than 3 going up. If you looked at your promotions out of the Conference compared to the promotions out of League Two, what would you compare and contrast out of them?
It's definitely a lot harder to get out of the Conference. But there's teams, the style of play with some, there's more physical teams in the National League than there is in League Two, League One, possibly. Again, I don't think there's a massive difference between the style of play in League One and League Two. But I think the physical side of the game in the National League is very, very tough now. And like I say, it's just, again, having that mentality of doing what you can to get yourself through it.
Your League Two with Barrow, you had one great, you had a big early League Cup game with Aston Villa, didn't you, at Barrow, which I'm sure was a massive occasion for Barrow, given where they've been. What would you say is the difference between playing for Barrow in League Two as opposed to being at Notts in the National League a few months ago, or be 6-7 months ago?
I don't think there's not much of a difference. I think, like I say, I've gone in to a team under, you know, Ards and Ian wanting to, you know, playing football, playing out like we do, playing from the back, to go into Barrow, and the manager wants to do exactly the same. And I think that was a part of, like I say, staying in the league, going with a manager that you know that wants to play football in the right way. But I don't think there's a massive difference between, like I said, other than the physical side of it, there's a massive difference between the styles of play.
How are your legs? How's the head holding up in League Two this season?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's been a bit of a mixed start for us, but no, like I say, physically, mentally, I feel fine. You know, we had a bit of a poor run, but every team does. You know, I don't think we won until 1 in 9 till we did on Saturday. So that'll do the group, you know, massive to try and kick on again now.
It sums football up, doesn't it? Because at Notts, clearly a lot of very good facilities, 20,000 stadium. I'm hoping everything's laid on for you as a player. I'm sure that it is. And you go to Barrow, who have been starved of Football League for many, many years. And clearly it's going to take them a little while to build up a fan base and an infrastructure, isn't it? When you've been out of the Football League for 35, 40 years. How do you compare those two?
Like I say, you know, playing, like I say, it is a difference. Like I say, with the facilities Notts have got, compared to Barrow, Barrow struggled to find a training ground. We've only recently, in the last couple of weeks, found a settled base where we're going to be for the long term now, hopefully. You know, previous to that, it's, you know, we've been driving here, there, and everywhere, trying to find somewhere to train. We've been on 4G pitches. We've been using local football clubs. And I think it's been tough. That's been tough again on the players. Maybe there's still a little bit of that non-league mentality at Barrow, which needs to change if we want to push on and push up the leagues, if that's possible.
But equally, I assume there must be a fantastic feel-good factor for Barrow to be back in the league. And as I say, there was the televised game with Aston Villa, wasn't there? Which I'm sure was a great occasion for everyone, irrespective of the result. Yeah,
definitely. You know, that was a massive learning curve for everybody. Like I say, financially great for the club. Getting the game on TV. Like I said, the fan base that's there, the fans this season for us have been, and I've said it every week, that the fans have been unbelievable. Home support, away support. They've backed us all the way so far, and hopefully that can continue. You know, so it's just a case of, you know, the club avoided relegation last year. You know, we're 6 or 7 points above the relegation at the minute. I'd say there's a better footballing team than there was last year, and you know, people think, oh, it's little old Barrow and things like that. But we need to make, as a team and as a group, we need to make it hard for teams to come up to Barrow, because I don't think anybody wants to come up to Barrow to play us. That's me being honest. I don't think any. I mean, we beat Swindon at the weekend, and we did what we had to do to win the game. But we need to, like I say, it's not little old Barrow. It's, you know, we want to push up the leagues, with the group of players we've got are good enough to fight for promotion.
I think that's kind of testimony to the football pyramid, isn't it? You know, because teams can still go up and down. Clearly, we at Notts County will be advocating more teams going up at the minute. I suspect Barrow, and I would totally understand why, would not be saying, oh, 3 teams should go up and down, because that's become an increasing debate. But I guess from what you're saying, and you are perfectly positioned, having played National League with Notts last year to Football League with Barrow this year, do you think the overall difference in the quality of the teams is that there's not a lot in it now?
No, definitely not. Would I like to see another team come up? Probably another team go down. I think I would, yeah. Like I say, there's some great teams down there. Again, that play good football. You know, and you've got a team that finishes second that have worked the socks off, and they have to go far the playoffs. I don't think that, I don't think it's fair. And some teams in the lower end of League Two aren't good enough at the end of the season, and I think it's only fair if you look over the other leagues. There's 3 teams, 4 teams, 3 teams out of the Premier League that have to come down. Why can't it be more for League Two in the conference?
Interesting. You are now 32 or 33?
33 now.
33. Are you one of those players that wants to kind of like suck every last minute that they can of playing professional football, or are you one of those that's already working out the next step of the career and doing the training courses and all the rest of it?
I want to keep going for as long as I can. I think that's just me. That's just who I am. I still think I've got loads more to give. You know what I mean? Again, not the gifted player, player around, but I'll give everything I can to help a football club out. And I say that's who I am. And if I can keep going for another 4 or 5 years, then I'll do what I can to make sure I can do that.
I knew you'd say that. I knew you'd say that. I knew. I don't know if you must have come across him. I'm going back 5 years. We at Notts had Gary Jones, who'd spent a long period of his career at Bradford and Rochdale.
Yes.
And he came to Notts at something like 37, 38, and that's central midfielder, not centre half, which I know is hard to play at 37, but central midfield, not easy either. And of course, I suppose you'd look at Michael Doyle as well, wouldn't you? 39, 40. Yeah. He was available every single game of that season in League One after coming to us at 37. Every single game he was available to play. And I guess you're in that category, aren't you? Neil Bishop we've had on as a guest. We know Neil well, and he came into pro football relatively late, carried on playing till he was about 38 in midfield. And again, he was always available, and it took a lot for him to miss a game. Yeah? Likewise, you?
Yeah, I think so. I think, like I say, if I've got a little niggle or anything like that, and it's nothing to worry about, I just say strap me up and we crack on and try and play.
You mentioned ACL. Well, when you got bashed about the head, I mean, who's been toughest opponent? What's kind of been the worst injury you've sustained? Or
I'd say I've had elbows in the eyes. I've had boots kicked in the face. It's but I think, like I say, career-wise, I'd probably say, like I say, the ACL was a scary one for me. Never experienced anything. I don't think during my career, been out no longer than probably 10 days. But then obviously to find out that, I think I knew that at the time I did something serious. And the wife being a physio,
oh right, okay.
She knew at the time, and when she saw me in the treatment room, first thing she said, I think you've done your ACL. And like I say, scans, X-rays, whatever. And like I say, it was the cruciate ligament injury that I'd suffered.
So does the wife treat you then on the treatment table at home?
24-hour care I get, yeah. So if I'm not getting anything at the club, it's on the treatment table in the house, and massaging, acupuncture, you name it. She'll do what she can to help me out, and she wants to keep me going for as many years as I can.
Yeah. Well, is it a case of football has very much been, the sole focus of your life within reason? Not the family, yeah. But you are very, very driven by playing week in, week out.
Massively. Like I say, I'm a family man, with 2 daughters, and like I say, the Chesterfield game, they were there to see me score the winner. And like I say, I don't think there were anyone more prouder than the kids and the wife seeing that happen. But no, that I've got to think about them as well. you know, the next move or wherever I go. But no, they're a massive part of it now.
I forgot to tell you about the story about Brano earlier as well. That will make you smile. So I was at Leicester City. I was like the communications manager. This is payback for Brano. You can remind of him when you see him. So Guy was kind of like 18 years old, first year pro. We'd all gone down for a training camp pre-season. Clubs in the Premier League under Martin O'Neill, HMS Raleigh, you know, the naval training base just to the side of a lot of clubs used to go down there. And so Martin allowed me to join in the training. I was 34 at this point. I'd do as much as I can. And we had the bleep tests, and there were 2 groups. And so I've gone in the first group, and obviously all the lads are taking the mick. And so we're running up and down, and I got to about 11.1, which I was quite proud of. And obviously all the other players moved on very easily past it, with the exception of Ian Marshall, who did 11.2, and afterwards told me, he said, I don't know why you kept running so bloody long. He said, there's no way I could drop out before you did, because I'm a pro and you're like the 34-year-old press officer. He says, but I was struggling a bit. In the second group was Guy Branston. He's 18, should be in the peak of health. He got to 10.4, got to the far end, threw up over the floor and retired. You can imagine what the rest of the players said to him when me, as the press officer, had finished further than him. So he got a load of abuse then, and clearly, it took a lot of hammer for that. And I guess a little bit similar to yourself at Bolton. You know, he was at a Premier League club at the time. I think he might have made one appearance, but it was probably just a little bit beyond him. But he went on to make a career in the game. You know, you'd always see he had something. You know, he had something. And to be fair, as you probably found out, he had a great desire when he crossed the line, didn't he? To win.
Oh yeah, without doubt. And like I say, he's one of the most probably aggressive players. I'm glad he was in my team than against it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if he answered it. It wasn't my fault. Who would you say is the worst striker you've come up against? Who's given you? I mean, you mentioned James Constable at the striker. Who's you thought, cool? I know I am in a real battle today.
Oh, we have to say Akinfenwa, people like that.
So what's he like? Because I mean, to be honest, he looks fatter than I do. But clearly, when you see him, he's not. But I mean, he's a unit.
He's a solid fella. You know, you try and fight him, you lose. You try and get the ball, and you try and get in front of him, you lose. And it's just, you know, it's just impossible to get the ball off him. I mean, he's, you know, still playing now, and you know the way he brings the ball down on his chest, and he's got very, very good feet for a big lad. But no, he's definitely up there, and like I say, I've been lucky enough to play against some big players. You know, being involved in the FA Cup and things like that. You know, you've come across Harry Kane. You know, he was. I think he started on the bench. We got a Tranmere. We got a thumping 7-0. He comes on for 10, 15 minutes and he still scores 2. You know, we were on our last legs because we'd given everything. But no, there's say, you know, unfortunate to do that. And I've got his shirt sat up in the bedroom. So I'm lucky for that. But no, there's been some tough players over my years. But Akinfenwa and probably Harry Kane are up there.
You're pushing 500 appearances. So you get a glimpse of a top player. You know, he will be England's record international goal scorer, I am sure. What is it about someone like when you're playing Harry Kane? What are the different levels? What are the notches? I mean, because on the face of it, people would say it's not massively quick, but you come up firsthand. What's the difference when you go up those levels?
I think the positioning, the movement, it's sharp, and I think you don't realise until you come up against them how physical and how big they are. I mean, I think that Dele Alli played, Son played, and they're bigger players than you actually when you look at them on the television. They're taller, you know, a little bit wider. But no, it's the movement, the knowledge that they've got of making that pass. That they're probably I think when we played them, Tottenham players in general, I think they're like 3 or 4 or 5 passes ahead of you, so they know what they're doing before you haven't got a clue where they're going to go. But no, they certainly, you can see why some of them get paid what they do and why they play at the higher level.
Your career is far from over, as we've said. You've got, hit 40, do a Michael Doyle. When you look back from the boy that grew up in Kingsbridge, presumably you must take a considerable degree of satisfaction from what you've been able to achieve in your chosen profession.
Yeah, I think where I've come from as well, in a small town, again, just playing for your local team, playing with your mates in the park, and I had, like I say, a lot of friends that were, every day after school you'd be down the park kicking the ball about. But a lot of my friends were better than me. They were probably fitter than me, and I think I just had, again, going back to the mentality, I had the willpower to go. Look, I think from the age of 10, somebody asked me and said, like, what do you want to do? So I want to play professional football. And I remember that they laughed, and I'm thinking, but what's funny about it is it's something that I think I could do and want to do. And I think when I'm quite driven, and when I had the opportunity to realise at 15, 16, you know what, I've got half a chance. And like I say, it was the case, right? I wanted to give make a load of sacrifices and do what I can to become a professional footballer.
Where do you think you got that mentality, that drivenness from?
I think my dad was driven when he was younger. Again, it was probably more difficult back then when he was a good footballer, I was told, and he used to tell me all the time how good he was and the goals he scored. But it wasn't until you hear it from guys that he used to play against, and they said, do you know how good your dad was at the time? And I was like, he tells me, but like I say, but I think back then trying to make as a professional was a hell of a lot harder than what it is now.
Do you have any views on kind of the modern day academy compared to the way in which you would have come through? I mean, clearly there's always going to be evolution. There's always going to be development, isn't there?
Yeah, it's like I say, it's changed massively. Even in the little things of, that players now aren't, you hear things that they're not allowed to clean boots and things anymore. And, which I think, they've got to learn, I had to learn my trade. And, you used to say it all the time, with Kev Nicholson and people, they had to learn the trade and do everything to do what they can, cleaning boots, sweeping the changing rooms. But I think now there's none of that, and things like that have gone out the game where, it's a bit of tough love.
What would you say is your biggest strength then as a footballer?
I'd say it has to be the heading and the tackling. Like I say, over the last 3 or 4 years, I feel like I've improved massively from playing out from the back and doing what managers want. You get some players who think, I don't really want to do that, and I'm not confident in doing that, and just and the managers have gone, look, you make a mistake. You play in League Two, you play in the National League for a reason. You're going to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. But there's been no blame culture and things like that, which has been good. And like I say, I'm a willingness to learn as well. I think it's a massive factor, and that continue until I finish playing.
Well said. You spoke about being a family man. Now, I think off camera, has your dog been nice and quiet for this entire interview?
I don't know if you heard her once before. Yeah, I think people going past the door. She's snuggled up on the sofa now.
She's asleep. Yeah.
She's sound asleep now. Yeah.
So what have you got?
A cockapoo.
Cockapoo. Can you bring her on screen? Because we have a lot of dog lovers in our Magpie Circle flock, believe me.
Bite me if I try picking her up.
Yeah.
There you go. Here she is.
I love it. What's her name?
Missy.
Misty. And how old's Misty?
Lissy.
Say again?
Lissy, Lissy.
Oh, my apologies, Lissy. How old's Lissy?
She's 2.
Just to prove we woke her up, she's yawned on cue. There you go. I know there's a lot of our Magpie Circle flock that are keen dog lovers, and I think it's Wendy Patrick, who's a massive cat lover.
I don't even know how she's so tired.
We've got the family. So, who takes the dog most of the walks? You or the good lady, or your young?
No, the good lady does a lot. She does a lot more than I think she does, and she lets me know that as well. But no, she tends to, on my days off, I'll take her, and but we'll go out for a good couple of hours. But no, like I say, she's fantastic. She's, I say, great with the kids. The kids mind her non-stop, and she just, like I say, she just cracks on with it.
As we say, you see, this is all part of, as Kevin Nicholson said to me when I was going to have a chat with you. He said, "Great family man, proper family man, but crosses the line, and we go out and win." And I think it's such a shame for everyone that we weren't able to get a 5th promotion with you at Meadow Lane. And I know that many Notts fans would still love to see you at Meadow Lane at the moment. But fair play, you have got back into the Football League, which is exactly what we're trying still to do at Meadow Lane, and hopefully we'll be able to achieve it this season. And presumably, I don't know if you keep in touch with any of the lads or to keep an eye out for the result.
Yeah, I mean, result-wise, I'm always looking. There's a few former, like again, Torquay being a former club. They're one I look for. Notts, I think I was sat in the car driving home on Saturday, and I said to him, "How did Notts County get on?" He said, they won. So I was like, good. So let's say when I get home, it's looking at the league table to see where they are. But no, I wish the club all the success, and like I say, hopefully this year will be the year.
Thank you very much indeed. And also, I think, we would all say to you, we wish you every success in keeping your career going for as long as possible, and subject, of course, to injuries, because we never quite know what can happen. I would be very surprised if you don't join the ranks of those kinds of players, of like our former Magpie Neil Bishop, Gary Jones, who are going long into their 30s, because you clearly have the mentality, the desire, and the appetite to keep playing football, which is brilliant. And a lot of players, for whatever reason, don't always have that, do they? Because their kind of like focus or life balance changes. But you are a football warrior without a shadow of a doubt.
No, great. No, I'd say it's one of them. It's all I've wanted to do from day one, of having the opportunity. And like I say, I still think I've got a lot more promotions left in me with other clubs.
On that note, that's a very positive note, Mark. Thank you very much indeed. Delight to sponsor you last season. Got the shirt.
Thank you very much.
I've done about 5 this year, because I like the old shirts. But thank you ever so much indeed. Thank you for taking the time and the trouble to join us today. It's very much appreciated. I know you've got plenty of games on the go at the minute. Mark, thank you very much indeed. All the very best at Barrow.
Thank you.